Okay, we are recording and it says we're streaming on YouTube. So I'd like to make a motion to call to order the New Paltz Town and Village Joint Board Meeting for June 4th, 2020. And
Second.
it is
Second.
Julie?
all in favor.
Aye.
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 It is 7:03 for the minutes. So please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I have a flag
Pledge allegiance.
against two flags,
Which stands, nation, under
under
God,
God,
Under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Thanks, Alex.
You're welcome.
All right, so obviously this meeting is being held via teleconference and streamed live on YouTube. We're also going to re-record it, and it's going to be uploaded to the New Paltz Government Meetings YouTube channel tomorrow. Please note, we're doing this under Governor Cuomo's executive order. It's hard to take comments live like this. I have a hard enough time running the meeting and the YouTube channel and everything else. So please, if anyone has comments, submit them to the clerk at townofnewpaltz.org and they will be entered into the record. And with that, I guess I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second, Dan.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And do you guys want to do the village, or you guys all set? Okay, announcements. Alex, so someone else might want to speak to this. I was just asked to make these announcements, but the census is still going on, and I checked our response rate tonight before this meeting, and we're at 62% for the town of New Paltz. We'd like to get up to 100%. It's important that people fill out their census forms. So I'm going to keep doing that, at least for this meeting and the next meeting. So 62%, we can do better than that. It's barely passing to C-. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Tim to start some of the joint meeting agenda, or I can do it, but it starts out with the feasibility study, renewable energy production and storage at the wastewater treatment plant. Ted, Village EPB Chair.
Yes, thank you, Neil. Thank you, Tim, for allowing us to be here this evening. If you could enable sharing, Neil, on that. But I'm pleased to introduce this group. Anytime they've worked hard all semester long on this project. It's an independent study course through SUNY New Paltz Engineering Group. They were a choice group of students picked for this project. They worked hard all semester on what you would normally call challenging conditions if they were only sent home once. But these guys, through the course of the semester, were not only sent home once, they were sent home again twice. Through the semester and everything that was going on. In spite of these challenges, they've done a fantastic job with understanding this project and developing a good set of solutions that can benefit the community. That's what we as engineers do. And it's great to have been involved with them over the course of the semester. SUNY New Paltz is a community asset and a blessing for our community. Without any further delay, I'm going to turn things over to this group of 3 engineers. They'll introduce themselves and
hopefully I can figure out how to share.
For this. But then also Monday morning will be a more detailed presentation of the same material. Anyone that's interested, contact Janelle, myself, or the town office or the village office, and we'll get you that information. So without that, Zach, Nikki, Nolan, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you. So Ted kind of introduced us already, but we are 3 engineering students from SUNY New Paltz. We're here to present our work from over the past semester, which was pretty dynamic, but we were able to be here. So the renewable energy production and storage and feasibility study at the wastewater treatment plant for the village of New Paltz, New York. So I'm Zachary Johnson, mechanical engineering student at SUNY New Paltz. I'm set to graduate in December 2020. Able to- Hmm.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, is Nikki good?
Hey, this is Tim. Can Neil hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I tried to unmute everybody.
Right.
What do you guys need me to do?
Well, I was
Mine got
also,
muted.
Neil, I was also checking the YouTube link that was at the top of our agenda because it seems like it's like a different link than today's. Is that?
It depends when when it was updated. It says I'm live on the one the video link. I mean, it says I'm live now on the one that it's supposed to be, but I don't know.
Is that the one at the top of the agenda, the one that ends in SJA?
I would have to JA. All right, I can try doing it again. See if that works. I don't know if Ariana's around, but it's not letting me customize the links anymore.
Yeah.
So I have to go like straight to.
It might just create a new link, which is okay. Then you just can't use the one from the agenda, but you'll
Yeah,
have
and it won't let me. You know, you're supposed to be able to set. I have this all set up. Ariana showed me how to do it, but now it doesn't. The tab doesn't open up when I'm
Yeah,
trying to do that.
I think that's a trick.
I mean, it worked before. If I start a different meeting, it works. I did after the same thing happened after the last meeting.
Well, either way, I just wanted to make sure that you were recording it.
Yeah, we're recording it.
Okay.
It says we're live, but it's not showing up. So.
So you want to continue with the presentation?
Yeah, I think Nikki's trying to call in by cell phone, but I don't know if she's able to unmute herself.
It says they're all unmuted, but
All right, now I'm unmuted. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think Nikki's still having trouble with she's still muted.
Neil, do you mind if we come back after a couple items? We'll see if we can get the audio fixed out on our end and then restart.
Okay, I'm unmuted now, I think.
Oh,
Oh,
Perfect.
Yeah, cool. Sorry about that.
okay, so we're good? All right.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I clicked the YouTube link and it's Rob Lucchese talking. So I don't, is there like two different YouTube links that were sent out?
yeah, I mean, I wasn't able to get it to work, obviously. I can keep trying while we're doing this.
All right. Should we just keep going?
Zach, if you want to reintroduce yourself, I don't know if anyone is
Yeah.
distracted.
Yeah, all right, we can pick up from here. So I'm Zachary Johnson, mechanical engineering student from SUNY New Paltz, set to graduate in December 2020.
My name is Nikki Marr. I'm a computer engineering student at SUNY New Paltz, and I'm set to graduate in May 2021.
And I'm Nolan West. I was the electrical engineer, and I also graduate in 2021. Before we get started, we'd just like to mention the organizations and companies that helped us out. Obviously, the Village of New Paltz letting us go to the wastewater treatment plant and giving us the bills from the past couple of years. Walden Environmental, our mentor, Ted Nitza, was very key into this. The Environmental Consulting Incorporation with Chris Yeager. He took us around the plant and showed us how everything worked. SUNY New Paltz, where we're from, our professor, Kevin Shanley, is attempting to watch the YouTube video right now. Hopefully he sees this. And SunCommon and Key Capture Energy, they were the solar panel and battery companies that we talked to get the pricing and information on them.
Okay, so just for our project objectives, so when we first began the project back in January, we did meet with Mayor Rogers, and we were given the task to attempt to reduce the monthly utility costs for village and town ratepayers and provide, if possible, a feasible example of successful use of renewable energy. So unlike some traditional class assignments that we're usually used to, this one didn't really have an answer per se. The answer was not known, but it was required through a thorough review of existing conditions and other things at the site that we were able to apply this study.
So an additional objective of this project was to obtain points for the town of New Paltz within the Climate Smart Communities Action Plan and help advance the town into the silver distinction level. Since both solar energy systems and battery storage systems are considered as part of this feasibility study and are both considered renewable forms of energy, this project is worth 4 points. And then looking down the road, anywhere from 9 to 20 points can be gained by the village based on the amount of installed solar energy technology. So the following stacked bar chart was generated by collecting over 36 months of the village's wastewater treatment electric bills. After analyzing each month, it was concluded that the electricity supply charge was the highest and would be directly reduced through the implementation of solar technology. The demand charge was found to be the second highest cost factor and was found to be able to be reduced directly through the implementation of battery storage technology.
And with the data we were given through the 36 months, we were able to come up with this bill calculator for the wastewater treatment plant. And essentially what it does is it takes the first 4 values, the total kilowatt hours used in 1 month, the peak kilowatt hours, what month and what year, and it is able to generate a bill based on those values. In order to test how well this actually worked, we put in the values of the 36 months, and we found that this calculator was only off by an average of about 1.5%. So it was the perfect tool for us to use if we wanted to see how solar panels will reduce the bill.
Sorry, I'm not sure why it's not flipping right away. There we go.
Okay, here we go. So one of the first primary objectives of this was to go to the wastewater treatment plant and look at all the machines there and see essentially what took the most power. And what we found was that when the water goes through these 8 things, the 8 machines essentially, they all will generate a certain amount of power. But we were specifically intrigued as to what ones took the most power.
So like Nolan was just saying, we actually visited the site and we kind of investigated each individual piece of electric equipment with the help of Chris Yeager from Environmental Consulting Incorporation. And then after that visit, we took any notes or photos that we found from those pieces of equipment, and we were able to find specification sheets online for each individual piece of equipment. This allowed us to determine the total kilowatt hours used monthly for each piece of equipment, and then we took these values and broke them down into percentages. So as you see in this pie chart right here, we identified that the lip pumps, that big blue area over there, is pretty much our peak load representation for the site. It generates the most power per month. So now for our results and findings, after talking to a bunch of battery companies and solar companies, and then just comparing a bunch of different locations at the site, we ultimately came up with suggesting this site, as seen in the picture, location A, as the best option for placing solar panels, since it costs the least amount to install solar at this location. It requires the least amount of demolition because it's just on a hillside at the site. It's out of reach from the public, and it's flood protected. The zone is flood protected. So with this location, we would potentially be able to place about 290 standard solar panels, and we would also include a 67 kilowatt 4-hour duration battery storage unit that would be located indoors near the site's main electric lines, and that in total with the solar and the battery would cost about $381,000. So the solution would save the village approximately $1,650 per month, or about almost $20,000 a year. So with that estimation, we predict that the break-even point would be in approximately 20.6 years. Trying to flip the slide again. There we go.
We just want to say thank you on behalf of myself, Nikki, and Nolan for allowing us to present. We would also like to thank the village and town for this opportunity. And as Ted said earlier, a full presentation given by us Zoom will be shown on Monday, June 8th at 11 a.m. With the availability for a question and answer session at the end.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. I really like how you ranked the individual pieces of the plant in terms of how much power they use. I think that's really interesting. You know, anytime you get to see exactly what the Muffin Monster does compared to something else, that's super cool.
Yeah, thank you.
So how long do you estimate panels would last? Like if the break even is 20 years, how long would the panels last?
I think that would come as we get further down the road. I think that would probably be an estimation that would be given by the solar company. The way it was described is that these would be commercial panels that we weren't given an actual, you know, lifetime on the solar panels.
I would say the average one probably lasts about 25 years from what I've seen.
I feel like Ted is always really good at looking at like a big picture solution and then coming up with alternatives like, well, what if we don't do this entire project? What if we did just a couple of pieces? Maybe that would be more economically feasible. Like, were there any other ideas in terms of like, partial versions of this plan that either you penciled out or you said, well, maybe this would be where we would look next?
I can answer that one. So we recommended site A as our one to take over, but we also have locations B and C. And if you were to combine either of those sites with A, you could get almost 100% capacity of the electric bill. So it's possible to do some of the solar panels at A, some of the solar panels at B, but we'll probably go into more of that on Monday.
Yeah, and then another thing just to add, so one thing that we also would potentially do, given more time, is speak to more solar companies and batteries, because we found that a lot of the outreach we were trying to perform wasn't really helpful because of COVID and everything that's going on. A lot of people were out of their office, or we were just getting really, really late replies and issues with email correspondence. So ultimately we stuck with one main consult for solar and one main consult for battery, but if we were able to speak to more companies and get more quotes, maybe we can find another solution.
So, Mayor Rogers, I appreciate the compliment. They did look at a number of different solutions, and I think a couple of things to keep in mind too is that the cost that they're looking at is unassisted with any kind of grants or anything. It's a full cost, straight up cost of those assets. And as you're aware, there's a lot of programs out there that can reduce that cost, which would also reduce the break-even point for that. Solar panels that we were looking at are in the 20 to 30-year range, like Nolan was talking about, and you see a diminishing performance of those panels, 95%, 90%, 85%, rather than just one day they don't work with that. And then the last item too is, even if we're looking at a life cycle cost that's similar to the straight up cost for those assets, every year during that time, the solar panel and the batteries are going to be lessening the reliance on fossil fuels and other energy sources that might be necessary otherwise if these assets of these improvements were in place.
I have a quick question. Would increasing the overall design, enlarging or adding more solar panels and perhaps more batteries, would that have a quicker return? And also, when you say life, are you saying life of the solar panels is 25 to 30 years, or the batteries? Because I understand batteries have a very limited shelf life as well.
So increasing the amount of solar panels from the way, so if they save a certain amount of money, increasing it will actually keep it the same. So you could have solar panels contributing 100% of the wastewater treatment plant, and it would still be around 20 years.
Also, just to add to the number, just to add to the number of solar panels, like the way that we came up with those values and the way that we came up with that mapping that we showed in the presentation was from the aerial view. It was based off the site conditions. So when you visit the site and kind of see what space you have to work with around the community gardens, for example, are right there, and the Wallkill Valley River is right there. And then another location that we were considering is the parking area, which is a lot of empty space, but at the same time, you have to consider the flood protected zones. So we kind of took into account the pricing for all of those costs as well. So all the additional costs that you have to consider when you're thinking of location, and then how many solar panels can fit in those amount of acres.
Yeah, I think the area that you identified makes the most sense. I've looked at the property before with other solar installers, and that also made the most sense in terms of that it was elevated, so it might be protected if there was a flood, and there was also an existing embankment, so you have a little elevation to take advantage of.
Yeah.
So made a good deal of sense.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for allowing us to make that presentation, this evening. Last shameless plug, Monday at 11 o'clock, there'll be a more thorough presentation, more opportunities for questions and answers. But I want to thank SUNY New Paltz and their newcoming engineers, emerging engineers, for the work they've done this semester. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. That was great. Thank you.
Okay, like to maybe hand it over to Janelle now for the.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Janelle Piotr, and I'm the coordinator for New Paltz Climate Smart. I'm also on the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee and the Ad Hoc Committee for Complete Streets. So I've invited an intern, another awesome SUNY New Paltz intern, Anna Siegel, to join me as she has been very much active in this process of our Complete Streets Ad Hoc Committee. So it is always wonderful to work with interns because they bring a fresh perspective, and Anna has certainly attended every meeting and overcome odds with COVID. She is in place in Long Island and yet still remains active and working with me, so I appreciate that. We have a series of slides that we're going to share. Anna, are you able to share them?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So while she's getting those up, I would say that, back in March, we were getting close to wanting to do a presentation to the joint boards, just as far as where we were so far in our process with the ad hoc committee. But then COVID happened, and meetings were kind of shut down, and we kind of put it on hold for a while. But in the back of my mind, I've been hearing stories of communities around the country that have been doing some really innovative things as it relates to complete streets in response to COVID-19. And I was able to watch a recorded webinar on, it's called Complete Streets Response to COVID-19. Anna, are you having challenges getting the?
Oh no, I think I got it.
Okay, great. So some of you may have seen this. I did send out the link. If you can go to slide 2.
I hope you can see it. I don't.
There we go. Okay, next slide.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah, next slide.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you. So this link here, and I can send this out to everyone if you didn't have a chance to look at it, but it really kind of highlighted some innovative ways that other communities have responded to COVID-19. I was impressed by this man, Mike Linden. He really talked about tactical urbanism and walked us through 6 of the kind of COVID-19 street topologies that they do, and it included open streets, open curbs, shared streets, temporary bikeways, and more. It's amazing what you can do with cones and signage. Then also Robin Hutchinson from the Minneapolis Department of Public Works was very impressed with what they have done in Minneapolis in terms of just a rapidity of issuing permits for curbside pickup and allowing signage and parking spaces to be dedicated to that. Also interesting, just threw it in here as another example, Carlos Pardo from Bogota, Colombia, they actually provided 400 e-bikes to all the healthcare, well, to many healthcare workers in Bogota. It's a huge city, but so they kind of strategically distributed these e-bikes and had a really great response and really a cool way to both help the healthcare workers and try this experiment in really expanding emergency bike lanes. Next slide.
Sure. Oh. It won't let me go. Oh, I have to click it. Okay.
Go ahead, Anna.
Okay, so, oh, sorry, I keep clicking. I have to go back. Shoot. Okay. Okay, so some of the stuff
that we're going to talk about is like the background information. So the Village of New Paltz adopted a complete streets policy in 2013, but the town of New Paltz does not currently have a policy. In the early summer of 2019, there was a joint town and village board meeting, and it was agreed to adopt a joint complete streets policy, and the Bike Ped committee was asked to draft a policy proposal, and this is what led to the creation of the ad hoc complete streets committee. Some of the activities that we've done so far, we held a complete streets training on September 23rd with trainer Dan Sirachi. We had 20 people attend, including the village mayor, town supervisor, and we had representation from different municipal boards and community members. And part of this training was to do a walking audit and visioning around like New Paltz to observe the traffic rate and see how we can implement some of these new crosswalk features that will protect non-vehicle users like pedestrians, bicyclists, and safety for vehicle drivers.
So our ad hoc complete streets committee, we've had a variety of individuals who have participated for a meeting here or there. Many people had conflicts with their schedule, so we certainly had support from a larger group, but the four key people that have attended most meetings are myself, Amanda Gatto, Michael Reed, and Anna. So in that process, we've been meeting usually the first Monday of every month, but then several months we've also had additional meetings as well. So we started in November, and we've continued to work on through Zoom in the same way everybody else is from home. Next slide.
Okay. So throughout all of our meetings, we've come up with a complete streets policy proposal, and we have the outline for it. So this is just like the beginning of its preamble. 2011, Governor Cuomo, he signed a complete streets bill, and it was successfully passed by the state Senate and the state Assembly. It requires complete streets guidelines to be considered for planning, designing, construction, and reconstruction for state and federal funded roads. Some of these designs include sidewalks, bike lanes, lane stripping, crosswalks, and like shared roadway signage. And it's intended to make roads accessible to all, so including pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, public transit users, and people of all ages and all abilities. So as you're reading this vision statement, you'll notice that our policy mainly focuses on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. It's obviously one thing we're really, really concerned about is our environment and climate change. And also that our policy is going to ensure that the new and updated public and private projects are planned, designed, maintained, and operated to enable the safe, comfortable, and convenient travel to the greatest extent possible for all users of all ages and abilities, meaning pedestrians, bicyclists, automobile drivers, motorists, and transit riders.
So our complete streets policy proposal tries to address these different things. Obviously, and I already mentioned climate, that's number one for me, obviously, but there are also many health and safety issues. Right now, giving people opportunity during COVID-19 and needing for social distancing, this aspect is even amplified. Likewise, the next one, equity, a very timely topic, and one that I think more and more with climate issues, we really need to be addressing. Obviously, environment, fiscal impact, and this can be a two-way street, sorry for the pun, but fiscally, how is that going to impact us? What kind of funding sources are we going to need to find to do projects? But also, how might you look at the fiscal impact of doing some of these changes in a positive way to businesses? Perhaps some businesses, the number of customers that they get will be enhanced by making some of these changes. I think of, for example, if there was a creative way to allow more outdoor seating to be able to increase the capacity of a restaurant, given the need to social distance tables. As with all complete streets policies, you also have to specify the exemptions. And of course, we need to have kind of overriding objectives and guiding principles as we move forward to write the proposal. Next slide. So this is a slide, a set of recommendations that are sort of immediate things that we actually, if we'd had a chance to meet with you back in March, we really wanted to present them then. And these are ideas that we have vetted through the Bike Ped Committee, the Complete Streets Ad Hoc Committee, and also we had another meeting with the trainer Dan Sirachi from New York City, who had done the Complete Streets training. So number one would be to paint diagonal crosswalks at both Chestnut and Main and Manheim and Main. These two intersections are unique because they already have the lights, and when you hit the button, it already stops traffic in all directions. So it was pointed out that we could really enhance the user's experience by allowing a diagonal cross rather than to have cross twice, and actually perhaps even slow down vehicle traffic. Another idea is, number two, is to post reflective flags for pedestrian use, much like currently is at the rail trail, but also have that at Plattekill in Maine. And our Dan Sirachi pointed out that rapid flashing beacons is actually part of the Empire State Trail design standard, and that we really should be able to advocate for getting the rapid flashing beacons at these intersections because it is part of the Empire State Trail for pedestrians. A third idea is to change it so that at Putt Corners in Maine and at Ohioville in Maine, there's no right on red, that would really increase safety for bicycles and pedestrians. Number four, enforce the bike parking ordinance. It's been observed that some locations that should have bike parking haven't always had adequate places to park their bikes, the equipment. Number five, a sign at the T, right as you come off of the highway. Welcome to New Paltz, a bike and hike friendly community. Bicycles may use the full lane as they can anywhere. And pedestrians have the right of way. So it really kind of sets a tone and a statement at the entrance to our community. Next slide, please. Another recommendation is to add reflectors flush to the pavement to the crosswalks at Plattekill in Maine. This kind of goes with either putting the beacons or the flags. Number seven is to promote the designation of the middle school as a school zone. I was surprised to learn that that hadn't already happened, and apparently it's something that needs to happen by the school board actually asking for it. But with it being designated as a school zone, we could then slow down the speed, which I think would be, really add to safety. Number eight, paint. This was the one I must say right at the outset, it was the most controversial among us and between us, and that is to paint sharrows up and down the main street. Sharrows are, just kind of an arrow like this, and the symbol of it is that you are sharing the road with bicycles, that vehicles and that bicycles don't have their own lane, but that you must share in this space. And even though that is true in general, a lot of times it's not observed. And because it's so tight down our main street, it was felt that this was one way to really bring awareness to vehicle drivers that they need to share it with bicycles. It only requires paint and is therefore minimal cost. Our consultant cautioned us that there could be consequence to this if a lot more bikers started using it because there were sharrows and we really hadn't adequately provided for their safety by providing a bike lane. That might be the downside. So that would be one to talk about more. Next slide, please.
So part two of our short-term goals are to appoint a Complete Streets Advisory Board that will provide input on public projects in the town and village of New Paltz. We also want to provide information to the public about the Complete Streets Advisory Board policy, and yeah, put it on the town and village board websites so the public can have access to it. We also want to, oh, sorry. Okay. Oh. Sorry about that. We also want to increase awareness through an educational program that would include workshops and training. Could also coordinate that with the school. We also want to develop a Complete Streets checklist, and that would act as a guide for review on like all projects that would be undertaken by the town and village of New Paltz. And all of this would be also reviewed under the advisory board. So this is the midterm goals, so years 1 to 3. So we would want to identify where our funding, conduct a Complete Streets audit that would examine the accessibility, safety, connectivity, and the quality of place for an area in the town and village. That includes key community features and destinations. It could be led by the advisory board along with the town and village planning boards. And this will, all this information will be incorporated to an implementation plan. We also want to identify the current regulations within the city zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations. These are consistent with the Complete Streets approach to roadway and streetscape development. And we want to provide recommendations to further enhance guidelines and requirements. And in terms of long-term goals, like 5 to 10-year goals, we want to complete a bicycle, pedestrian, and public transportation plan that includes a map and illustrating the gaps in like pedestrian, bicycle, and transit-friendly components. The results of the Complete Street audit would be the basis for the plan, and it could help us identify Complete Streets needs and priorities within the town and village.
So as the coordinator for New Paltz Climate Smart, you know, as you know, we were celebrating that in March of this year, the town and the village both were awarded the Bronze Climate Smart Community status. And just by coincidence, both the town and the village received 158 points, even though there were different things that were submitted. Just by the way it fell out, we both have 158 points at this point. And for bronze, we only needed 120. So I'm proud that we actually exceeded, you know, the minimum. That puts us on our way to silver, which is certainly what my next goal is. And I hope all of you would agree that to set our sights on silver, which would require 300 points, as just presented before us. You know, an example of a way that we can do that is with this feasibility study that was done. And if there's implementation of any of those ideas, that would be points. There are many ways, but just know that Complete Streets implementation would be another way to gain points, and there would be 3 under the Climate Smart Communities process. And that's simply to, as it says here, to get the points, you have to show that you either have a Complete Streets implementation plan, or that you have additional steps necessary for full implementation. So you don't actually have to have done it all, but you got to have the plan and the vision for what you're going to do over time. Next slide.
Okay. Oh. So here are just some questions that we proposed. And the first one is, how does COVID-19 reframe our Complete Streets policy? And if anybody like has any ideas, please feel free to jump in, addressing just this first question.
Yeah, hi, this is Neil. I just wanted to kind of fill you in. I was talking to the planners from Alta Planning. They're the ones that are doing the Henry W. bike lane projects for us. And you know, they mentioned today that they've been talking to DOT, and that DOT is going to be approving street modifications due to COVID. They're going to allow, but they're going to be releasing that guidance in the next week or two, maybe 3. And they're still going to be looking for formal plans, but there's going to be some guidance for how we can do these modifications. You still have to meet a lot of the drainage rules and stuff like that. But we're going to be told how we can do this if we end up needing or wanting to do something like this.
That's encouraging because we have all of these state roads. It's really important that we are empowered to be able to do some of the changes that might be recommended. Other thoughts from other board members about how we might, really reframe complete streets from this point of view of COVID-19?
This is Julie. I would just say connecting trails, is maybe more of a priority now that more people are taking, recreating locally and taking advantage of the different resources we have right in town, like this rail trail and other places, Millbrook Preserve.
Hey, this is Tim. Another idea that I think is worth looking at right now. It feels like we might have this unique opportunity to experiment with ideas where, let's say, you almost say, well, why don't we try this on a temporary basis? Because of COVID, it might be a way to experiment with a concept. Some of the stuff that you've already looked at. We could put up just temporary barriers, and we could say that we're doing this, post-COVID or while we're still social distancing. So looking at it through that lens, that might be a way to squeak something in. And if it seems like it actually works, then we pursue a more permanent solution. So, kind of leverage the COVID piece best you can. That might be a way to try something.
Yeah, they're gonna, Tim and I were on a call a few days ago, with like Janelle mentioned, the restaurants. There are going to be some towns in Ulster County that are closing whole streets and turning them into a commons or something like that for dining and entertainment and stuff. And so, and actually, I think that this town that they were talking about, I think they may never open it back up. I think they're going to find that people really like it. And so I agree with Tim. I think this is an opportunity to try some things and see how they work out.
Yeah. 100% agree. Go ahead.
We'll know more when we get the guidance of exactly what's required. I think, that there's going to have to be a plan and stuff like that. And hopefully you don't have to, pay some engineer a ton of money to temporarily do it, but we'll see what happens. Nothing against engineers, Ted, but.
This is Julie again. I was just a few minutes ago out my window. There was a dad and a child on a Strider bike, and I see that so much more. One cheap thing that we might do in light of COVID, because of how many more families are getting out together, we don't have the money to pave sidewalks, but we could possibly just stripe one side of the street, so that you're inviting people, I hope it wouldn't set people up to feel too safe, but, you're inviting people to possibly, they're already in the road, trying to get from one place to another just to enjoy, a little bike ride. But on these places where there isn't a bike lane, like the streets that are perpendicular to Main Street in the village and whatnot, that's one possible solution or, way to go.
Absolutely. In that webinar that I suggested watching, there were many examples of just that kind of thing, where bike lanes were created simply with cones, and it really did facilitate, it really amplified the number of people out there using their bicycles and feeling safer. And just to tag on what Neil and Tim were saying, you know, it really, it's interesting because I reflect back on what Dan Sirachi recommended, the consultant. You know, he was, before COVID even happened here, he was like, you know, you can just do temporary things. Just play with it. You can do a lot with paint. Try it out. See how it works. And if people love it, which usually they do, then you can make it permanent. So even though right now it seems like an opportunity, it was a recommendation that we were given back in the fall.
Oh,
It's David.
Alex.
Oh, sorry, Alex, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? One of the things that I was thinking of that was kind of cool was I was in Colorado. I don't remember if it was like a Boulder or some other town like that, but they had a really cool competition where you had to design bike racks. And because a lot of it is you want to bike somewhere, but then where are you going to, you know, put your bike? And they had a really cool system in all the different restaurants, all the different stores where it was themed. So people would, you know, win the design and then be able to do the bike racks. That would also be something inviting for people to be able to have a spot where they can just park their bikes. They do that in Holland a lot. Every store, every restaurant has bike racks so that everybody can like put them in there. And it kind of makes it more inviting as a town. And they're actually relatively inexpensive to make, bike racks. They don't cost a lot. So that's also another option that eases the traffic because it allows people to think that they can go places and then just easily park their bike.
It's David.
Great idea.
Yeah, David, just want to, you know, second that. I think River Ridge has shown us that people do want to get out. They want to walk. They want to bike. The e-bikes are coming and making sure that they can come off of the River Ridge and come right into town, and that it feels really seamless for people to move around on vehicles other than cars. I think we're moving in that direction, and I think COVID is increasing that movement of people figuring out how to be in their own community and do things in their own community that are easy.
David, you remind me, I think this was supposed to be on the agenda, but maybe it didn't make it on there. But you know, Tim and I we're emailing back and forth, and Alex was in on this too. The e-bikes are now legal in New York as of the budget passing in April. So before that, e-bikes were not legal, but now they are. Some of the regulation falls to the local municipalities. So under the way the law is written, right now, e-bikes are legal, but only on streets where the speed limit is 30 miles per hour or less. And so local municipalities have to, I think it says pass a law or a resolution or something. You know, we got to find out exactly what we would need to do, allowing them on roads with a speed limit greater than 30 miles an hour. You know, and I think that's something we certainly want to consider here in the town and village. Because, you know, if you're limited to riding these e-bikes on roads where the speed limit's 30 miles an hour or less, you're really limited where you can go. You know, I couldn't even go up to Tops from my house. So, but I think when we do this, we want to make sure that we have the same in the village and town, you know, what the rules are. So that's just a kind of putting that out there now. And Janelle, I'm glad you're here too. I mean, we all remember back to the greenhouse gas emission inventory for the village and town. Transportation is a big part of it. You know, e-bikes are, you know, thought to really help with that last mile problem, getting people from hopping in their car just to go, you know, a mile or 2 miles, you know, and so promoting them on the local level, you know, hopefully that will do a lot for our local greenhouse gas inventory.
I think e-bikes also address another issue too, trying to find the words to more equity among those that are not 100% able-bodied. For example, myself, I had a knee replacement. I have limitations. For me to bike a long ways, for me to bike home from New Paltz without an e-bike would be really tough because there's a big mountain I got to climb. But with an e-bike, I can do that. And so, you know, I think that there's a lot of really powerful reasons. I think of Judy Mage, for example, you know, elderly member of our bike ped committee who's been extremely active and involved and has reached a place where physically it's difficult for her to ride without an e-bike. And so it really is a playing field leveler, which I think it's unfortunate that in the city of New York, e-bikes got a bad name because they were really used. There's different classes of e-bikes, and some of them allow you to go much faster than a normal bike because there's almost like a throttle on it. But like the type of e-bike I have, you stop pedaling, that bike stops moving. And so some of the food delivery folks were using them at high speed in New York City streets, and that's what really caused some of the uproar about them. But
Yeah,
luckily, I do not see them used that way.
Those are class 4 bikes, and they're only allowed in New York City. They're not allowed in the rest of the state, so we won't have to worry about that being an issue. I think you can get class 1, 2, or 3, and those class 3s have a top speed of 28 miles per hour, which, you know, if you're a serious biker, you know, I bet you Tim gets up to 28 miles an hour going down the hill all the time. So
exactly.
They're not all that different from a regular bike.
Right, right.
Sorry to hijack your conversation.
No, that's not, it's totally related. It's, you know, it's a good conversation to have. When we talked about some of the ideas, the recommendations, kind of immediate recommendations, thoughts and reactions to those. For example, the diagonal crosswalks, the beacons.
You know, I think Tim and I were at a meeting and we mentioned the crosswalks at one of these meetings for that spot. They said they weren't sure whether we met all the ADA requirements, but they said if we did, you know, the next time they paint it, they could probably do that painting.
They meaning DOT or who?
DOT, because that's their road, the state. And Tim will correct me if I misremember, but the middle school, where we talked about the school, classifying that as a school zone, it doesn't qualify as a school zone or something like that. Tim, did you remember what it was?
We've actually had Senator Metzger's office help us with this. And the DOT does not seem willing at all to work with us on making the area around the middle school a school zone. It seems like the language is very gray, that they're hanging their hat on to explain why they cannot. But I'm not feeling optimistic at all that we have folks at the DOT who look out for pedestrian safety. I received an email today from Max in Senator Metzger's office, and he's been following up on our behalf. The DOT feels like the way to deal with pedestrian issues on Main Street in New Paltz is just to figure out a bypass and not consider things like lowering speed limits. Like, I feel incredibly frustrated by the responses that we've received from the DOT time and time again.
Yeah, just to add to that, this is Alex. So there might be another, opportunity that we could keep an eye out for, because I know there's been a bunch of municipalities in light of, the outdoor eating, movement in this next phase of, the pandemic, petitioning to DOT and therefore also the state legislature to get the DOT to help with closing streets that aren't under like local jurisdiction. So that's like something I'm kind of tracking in the news. I don't have anything positive really to share on that end, but just Anna had mentioned earlier, just one thing, like widening like our lanes and all of that. And just gotta say, like, as as a renter who's been trapped in a very small studio without access to a yard or even anything, having more space out there would have been lovely these past few months. And I've heard that across the board with my people. So really into having more space for bikes and skateboards and roller skates and walking.
Excellent.
Yeah, I just want to add. Thank you, Alex. I agree with that. I really would like to see us, from Plattekill to Chestnut on Main Street, would have that be walking, Village, outdoor dining, really attract more restaurants and eateries to that area, and people just, you know, kind of like what's happening at Water Street happening up right there too when we can do it. That should be a walking zone. It's crazy that we're parallel parking cars on that road. It is nuts. Just doesn't make any sense. And just would add the reflector flags. I haven't seen them work so well. The reflector people, I don't find that people take them and use them and walk across. I don't think that's a good use of resources on the reflector flags, you know, on Plattekill or otherwise. I feel like that's a real dangerous zone in there, and I don't know what the answer is about how we deal with that in a better way. But you know, that's a zone to really pay attention to.
I think the flashing beacons is one of the alternatives to the flags that might be more powerful, especially at night.
David, I'm just curious by your comment about closing Main Street from Plattekill to Chestnut. So how do you think a bypass would work? Or, you know, all cars would either just go north or south on 32 or 208? Oh, David, you're on mute.
I don't know how it works, Tim, especially on heavily traffic when the tourists are really coming through. I wonder how it works more for residents. I'd like to see people be turning it off and bypassing around that area, maybe even before it. I'm not sure exactly. I believe people come there. They're looking to park on that main street. They're driving through. They're pulling off. They're circling back around. They're going through that area 3 times to find a spot that's relevant for them. It's like so much of the traffic, I believe, is artificial. So I'm not sure exactly. Every time I walk there, I'm like, this should be much wider sidewalks at least. Maybe just no parking there, and maybe just let the cars go through on both sides, but there's no parking on that road. You know, people stopping and trying to back up and pull into a spot while holding up traffic. It's nuts.
Oh, so you weren't necessarily.
I brought up that idea because Tim can attest. Somebody brought it up to me at the county, the idea of getting rid of the parking there. And we brought it up in one of our business calls. It didn't land so well with our small business owners. But
yeah, you gotta be very careful about using the P word in New Paltz.
But maybe our what do you call it? Our town hall-y type meetings that we did. Maybe we could do another one soon. And this could be one of the topics, because this is as we've said, it can be, a temporary doing of some new and different things because of COVID, with an eye to long-term change or not. And like Janelle said, the idea of trying things. Yeah, I've seen some cool things with paint on the streets.
I think. Yeah, I think maybe running it by the business owners. The idea would be yes, you're giving up some parking, but you're creating public space, so people are going to linger there, and maybe it's more of a destination. So, get rid of the parking and put dining there, and they may say, well, I'm willing to give up a parking spot if I can put a couple tables there and expand my restaurant into the street. And that's the stuff that's going to be allowed under COVID, that we would never be allowed to do that later on. They're also talking about, closing single lanes. Maybe both lanes don't get shut down. Maybe, either the east or west, one lane gets shut down and the other lane bypasses. It's our chance to try all these different things that have been proposed in plans for years, and it would take us $1 million to try it out. And then we say, oh, we don't like it, but now with some paint, and the DOT is willing to let us try these things out. Still, I think it's still going to cost money and time to even do these tests. So, we can't just, and we're not even doing it. This would be the village board that's in charge of the village, but I like the idea of thinking about it.
Yeah, the village, we also, if our board remembers, we reimagined Plattekill. And in the positive, using the P word, was adding spaces, but also adding a whole section with bike racks and a whole parking section for bikes. So that's also something that we can revisit and take a look at moving forward.
Excellent.
Yeah, I agree with what Michelle just said, that we could end up with, we could add parking spots on Plattekill in exchange for removing some on Main Street. And Neil and I just got an email this afternoon from a resident who was encouraging us to do something like experiment during COVID while, we have this directive from the governor to do creative things like closed sections. And maybe we do this, maybe we actually, and I think in the letter, this individual is saying, like, on weekends, just close Main Street from G's down to Lola's, from North Front down to Chestnut, and just see if the world doesn't implode, or if, make sure that New Paltz doesn't fall off into the Wallkill. I mean, maybe we'll survive.
I think actually economic development would be noticed by those businesses, and they would be like, oh, actually this is positively affecting our bottom line by doing some of these things.
I think you might be right.
Mm-hmm.
Because these restaurants are really, they had a really dismal springtime, and with the occupancy rules, it's going to be really hard unless we do something very brave right now.
Really getting more comfortable walking and biking. This is the time for those kind of experiments.
Now we're talking New Paltz Commons.
I love it.
One thing that it's Julie, one thing that I thought would be neat would be to have sort of a campaign, promoting biking. And I'd love the idea of, different themed bike racks that sort of, just make them stand out more than the sort of traditional bike racks, where it's, it's part of the promotion and the campaign that lets people know, it puts the idea in their head and helps promote the idea that it's healthful, and, and more people are, would I think be drawn to it. And so sort of, if we had some money to put into an inexpensive education campaign.
I'm just concerned we don't have room for those those bike racks. In some ways, this idea of moving the sidewalks in on Main, taking the parking off, then you're creating some more space for people to really move around and to put things like that. I think I like the idea too of, more bike racks, really encourage people to come in by bike.
One idea that was recommended as a way to make space for bike racks is to simply stripe off one of the parking places, a car, because imagine how many bikes can park in one car parking slot, a lot. So if it's like, okay, there's bike racks right there, in that parking spot, that could be one way to do it. Especially maybe at the beginning of a curb cut, so that the bike is protected too from cars. Well, I really appreciate all the thoughtful ideas, and we certainly want to continue the conversation. We with the Complete Streets Ad Hoc Committee, we're still very much in process, and hope to get you a final draft, if you will, of our proposed policy very soon. But we wanted to give you kind of a preview of what we're looking at and gain more input from each of you. And I'm really impressed that all of you have thought of ideas that you would like to see. So that's excellent. I think moving forward, working together, we could really have some innovative things happening here in New Paltz in terms of complete streets. One of the things that we are really struggled with in our working group is to try to figure out what the structure of our oversight committee would be that would track the implementation of complete streets policy. Because one of the things that we discovered in finding that indeed the village actually had a policy was that there really wasn't a mechanism to track it and make sure that things were implemented. So it really kind of just went away. So our consensus was that we should have a complete made up of representation from other boards and really having involvement from people such as yourselves, so that there can be an awareness that indeed we have this complete streets policy, and maybe a checklist that each of the boards, maybe a planning board, for example, can use when projects come through to be able to look at it and say, okay, does this meet complete streets recommendations and guidelines? What are your thoughts about having a complete streets advisory board?
How is it different from Bike Ped?
Bike Ped, it would be, is a very single issue dedicated bike and pedestrian. And it's not empowered to actually implement changes. Whereas this Complete Streets Advisory Board be made up of people that are in positions to actually make recommendations happen. For example, say it was a member of the planning board, and then they can take it back to their planning board and say, no, these are the guidelines that we have to follow. I'm struggling a little bit.
So would
Anna,
it
jump in.
replace Bike Ped?
No, it would not replace Bike Ped, because Bike Ped is also made up of volunteers, that don't have any official position whatsoever. I think that a member of the Bike Ped committee would be a member of the Complete Streets Advisory Board.
And so maybe,
Go ahead.
like you said, maybe members of the planning board would be on the committee as well. And there could be someone from the town board as a liaison, and just to make sure that doesn't fall through the cracks. So
exactly.
For me, the example is, in our town code, the planning board is allowed to require someone who's putting a subdivision in to put sidewalks in.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I know, in 10, 15, 20 years, they've never done it. There are no sidewalks anywhere and the rationale has always been, well, you'd just be building a sidewalk and it wouldn't connect to anything. Right. And so, I think the best example of that is they did not do that up on Waring Lane, right off of Henry W. And, that was built fairly recently, and there are no sidewalks there. But now we're putting in, possibly sidewalks or some sort of bike ped friendly connection, and they would then be connected to the village, if they had put them in. They're never going to put them in now. And so if you never put them in and you don't get started, you never get them anywhere. So yeah, there are some places where maybe it wouldn't make sense, but everyone's out walking right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that there are a lot of people who would like to have a sidewalk they could walk on, even if they couldn't walk all the way to the village. And I think it's just because there was no one always pushing that point on, and so I think that there's value.
I see the value. I just asked because it kind of feels like it makes Bike Ped obsolete. So I'm not really hearing the difference. And it's just, we wrestle with getting volunteers. So if there's redundancy, we should just, not have it.
I would just like to emphasize that Complete Streets, it deals not just with bicycles and pedestrians. It's going to deal with automobile drivers, motorists. It's going to deal with all forms and public transit users. It's going to deal with all forms of transportation. And the board itself, at least we think it should be made up of members from other boards who have the ability to make these recommendations and who can actually require some of these these projects to meet these guidelines. Yeah. And
to be clear, I get it. I totally agree with Neil that it needs, sorry to interrupt, that it would empower a committee to really push this and be laser on it. I just wonder if it,
I agree with what you're saying. I think if I think if this deals with all forms of transportation, I think Bike Ped could really focus on what can we do to help mainly like the bicyclists and the pedestrians. I think it would be okay in the sense that you have more volunteers proposing the ideas, mainly for bicyclists and pedestrians, and that Complete Streets could focus on like all aspects and all users. So
I think a very good point, Anna. I also think the bicycle pedestrian committee could do a lot more with education and planning fun rides, you know, doing more outreach to the community just about bicycling. Right now, as a member of the Bike Ped committee, I can tell you, I've been on it now, I don't know, it must be out, my term must be up 2 years or so. And it's so frustrating because we come up with all these great ideas, but we can't implement a dang one of them. So I think that, you know, I think some of our volunteers as members of the Bike Ped committee have dropped out because it's so frustrating. So I think that actually the Bike Ped committee might be reinvigorated and become more creative if there was this other Complete Streets Advisory Board that was really tackling the tough stuff and had the power to do it.
Janelle, I think what's really tricky about Bike Ped is there's lots of like super smart people with lots of good ideas. And I think what's hard about like lots of this work is like we could probably all just sit here and come up with like 15 awesome ideas. And I think what's tricky is like being super disciplined about saying like, okay, let's just pursue this one or maybe two ideas. I think that's the hardest thing about Bike Ped is like narrowing down the good or important ideas.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's a danger with Bike Ped that people just perceive, oh, that's just for people that like to bike. But it's like, wait, pedestrians, oh yeah, we all walk. And Complete Streets really gets at the point that it's all forms of transportation. They all have to work together. And so it makes it a group, an advisory board that covers more bases, at least from the perception of the community. So Anna and I really like to thank you all for your time tonight, your input. We will keep working as part of the ad hoc committee and hopefully be bringing forward to you the fleshed out policy. We have a lot more. We've been working on a shared document, but we just really wanted tonight to present our ideas and get your input, especially in light of COVID-19, rather than just saying, oh, we'll wait till you're not so busy with that. But in fact, to realize that it's also an opportunity to maybe do some things now. So we appreciate your thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, really, thank you all so much. And thank you for having us here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is all great.
Okay. And how do I stop?
I will hand it over to, I don't know, Eve or Jim, if you guys are here, and, you know, Tim or KT, you guys can take over for 3 and 4 on the agenda. Then this is the joint resolution regarding Ulster County sales tax.
Hey, if I could just chime in quickly, Dan here. I'm going to recuse myself from the conversation due to employment.
Gotcha. So what this resolution basically is Eve provided us with a resolution that she and Jim, who's on the call as well, and it was Lynn Archer, the other sponsor?
Yes, Ways and Means, yes.
Thank you. Have put forth at the county legislature asking for, instead of the new sales tax agreement, which would be made for another 5 years in 2021. The ask is to, given all of the volatility and uncertainty with sales tax, to do a 1-year agreement, or I should say a 1-year extension. So keep it status quo for 1 year and then revisit the issue when we know more about what the sales tax picture is going to look like. So this is something, I can't remember who thought of this. Did you think of this, Tim?
Eve, no, this was Eve.
Want to give proper credit?
No, it's Tim. Tim gets it.
Okay.
And just to clarify, I put an extension or and I don't remember the language, or just whatever decision would be 1 year, because I honestly didn't know what stage they were at. And so if they had already come up with some kind of plan, I wanted to make clear that I'm requesting that we are requesting that it's only for 1 year. So it kind of has that one or the other.
I see that now. Thank you.
Just in case.
So,
yeah.
But the end result, just adding a 1 year to the status quo.
Right. So Tim brought it up, and I agreed that it was a very good idea, and Jim did too. So.
Yes. And I think at this point, Eve, there's something like 13 folks that have signed on to this.
Oh, great.
I'm not positive. I mean, I unfortunately, what has happened, and I said this in the email, is a lot of the legislators, they may have initially signed, but how they're going to vote, they're all concerned about what their supervisors are going to say. That, you know, they'll tell me verbally that they're supportive of it, but that they have to check with their supervisors, which is why I put out that call today saying to supervisors, well, I sent it to Shannon and asked her and a few others to share with the supervisors, but like, if you do support this, please call your legislator or email them right away, because yeah, I have no idea how this will go.
Yeah, I know Tim has been talking to some of the other supervisors. Just to back up a little bit, what we've been talking about for several years now is that we think it would be a fairer formula to reduce the total amount that the county retains, and that it more be distributed. Obviously, we start from the point of view of New Paltz, where we send about $11 million in sales taxes, or we did pre-COVID, and got back less than 300,000. And to support, you know, a tourist economy and so many visitors to our community, you know, that's what sales tax is for. So our argument that we weren't getting a fair shake. And then secondly, we're really out of the norm as a county for the county to be taking such a big share of 85%. So our argument has always been that not just New Paltz should get more, but that the other villages and towns should be getting more. So in conversations with the other town supervisors, that's the context for where we're coming from, is that everybody should be getting more. It would be better aligned with norms across the state, and it would be more fair in terms of New Paltz, in terms of, and we've never said we want all 11 million back. We've just said that less than 300,000 is paltry and unacceptable given what we need to do in our community to support the local economy.
So this is Tim. Actually, a recent 12-month period, we actually generated over 13 million in the 12561 zip code. But you know, to emphasize what KT was talking about, it's absolutely not like New Paltz looking for just some larger stake. The idea is just to have a distribution that makes more sense for the 23 towns and villages. Like if the 23 towns and villages are sharing 3% and the county is 85.5 and the city of Kingston is 11.5, it just feels like we need to just take a closer look at you know, spreading funds around to support the 23 towns and villages. So the conversations that I've had with the town supervisors, what they're nervous about is this idea that, you know, the next couple of years are going to be tricky. You know, how do we return to, you know, maybe the revenue levels that we've seen in the past, maybe not, but the next couple of years may be a little bit shaky. And their concern is, there's currently something etched in stone that says they get X, something that gets revisited, they're nervous. Well, then there's uncertainty with their budget. So that is what has them nervous about not having a 5-year and moving to a 1-year. But Jim Quigley was also talking with me about, maybe what the legislature, because I think to KT's point, what we're just trying to do is to just make sure that this conversation is taking place and reminding folks that maybe we need to take a harder look at it. And Jim was saying maybe what the legislature could also do, potentially in parallel with this resolution, is say, we're committed to take a harder look. And I think Dutchess County does something like this, like when there's more revenue when they anticipated, that it gets sent directly to the towns and villages as opposed to the split. Just coming up with some other creative carrots, and the legislature saying, like, we're committed to trying to figure out some other creative ways that might get more money to towns and villages. So we could maybe talk about some other ideas. You guys may have already thought of things, but that could be like
the reason why I supported this idea was basically because, as you pointed out, Tim, and KT pointed out, there are other ways that counties are doing things, and they're worth looking at and understanding how effective those are. I've even seen some of the revenue go towards school taxes, reducing school taxes. We also have a lot of things that are different. Kingston used to have its public bus, and now the county pays for the bus in Kingston. I don't even know how much, there's this issue that Kingston could always pull out and just collect their own sales tax, and that they're helping us. But honestly, I've never even seen the breakdown, to know whether that was what impact that would have if they did separate. And so what this all comes down to is we need time to think about these and explore them and talk to supervisors and mayors and talk to each other. And the fear is that we don't have the time now. I mean, to just address that fear that they have the 3%, and maybe they could lose the 3% during this because of this economic challenge. I don't know that that's what they're agreeing on right now. For all we know, the executive and the mayor could be talking about bringing the village and towns down to 2%. I mean, the fact is we don't even know what they've been talking about. And it just seems like they're less likely to be talking about giving more. They could be talking about giving less, but they're definitely right now during this pandemic not going to be talking about giving you more. And so, again, in a year, we'll know a lot of different things. We can really explore these options. We would know whether we're going to get any federal money or not. We'll know so much more, and we could do the analysis, but it's just the feeling is that we don't have the time to really do due diligence to have a voice at the table right now.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we'd be doing if the county gave us more money, I think we'd be doing them a favor. I think they've gotten too used to, like 85% of their budget is based on sales tax. And now you see what happens when all of a sudden sales go down, like they're in a lot of trouble. So, it's not good to have all of your eggs in one basket, which seems like that's what they have now. So they should give us more money. We'll be helping them get off of this addiction to sales tax to fund all of their stuff, and they can spread their revenue streams out to different areas. I'd be happy to help them out with that.
Right.
I don't think they're ever going to go for that.
That was good. But they definitely aren't going to go for it this year. Let's just say that. In the next 3 to 6 months, they're definitely not. And I don't.
Change is hard.
I know you're talking tongue in cheek, but I mean, the point that you're making is, are there other creative ways? How do other counties manage it, taking less? And I think it's important to take the time and look into how they are doing it. And so your point is well taken in that there are other ways of a county surviving without 85%. We just have to understand what they are. I think it'd be worth talking to other legislators and seeing how that's worked out. But, you know, I absolutely agree that there are a lot of other paths that we could take. It's just the environment is not really allowing it right now.
You know, the other thing I would want to throw out is, like, you know, we've heard from the county before where they said, well, maybe what we'll do is we'll come up with some sort of like grant program where then you can request money for this project or that project. And, you know, I think what we need is like fewer grants to write. Like, we spend so much time and money chasing down grant money. What we need is unrestricted aid so we can actually, you know, just do, we know what projects we have. Like, we really don't need to do more song and dance stuff.
Yeah. Understood.
Yeah, so
That
I
is
go
one
back.
of the things that they do in Dutchess is they have a, well, Mike Hines started talking about replicating something like that right before he left.
But that wasn't with sales tax money.
It wasn't necessarily with any particular revenue stream, I don't think.
Yeah. No, I think it was that when they thought they had sort of a little extra. But
No, I thought it was. I thought it was like, well, we're not going to necessarily give you sales tax, but we'll create this program where we'll give you an opportunity.
no, because that sales tax agreement was the whole 5 years. I'm pretty sure it was a different stream, but yeah. So I think we're in agreement. I mean, I think that I think, again, I'll just reiterate that if we have any chance of this passing, it's going to need supervisors and the couple of mayors to actually, well, the one mayor, because Steve Noble's not going to be arguing for this. So we need Tim and the supervisors to really encourage their legislator to vote in favor of it. This and the other one, the short-term rentals agreement, which is also, whenever I ask somebody have they support it, they tell me they have to talk to their supervisor.
You should send us that. I don't think I've seen that.
Sure. I mean, it's essentially in two parts. I had originally had a resolution to have our short-term rentals collected by Airbnb rather than using the system that's now very inefficient and not, it's got many problems. And that the county share would not just be for tourism, but also for housing, to deal with the housing problem, and that percentage was distributed back to the towns and villages. Once the pandemic hit, I knew that there would be no way it would pass with that third element, so I took it out. And right now it's just looking for a contract with Airbnb and using some of the revenue towards the, you know, work in dealing with the housing shortage, not just tourism. I'll send it to you all after we get off the call.
But money goes back to the towns and villages, right?
I took that out because it would never pass. My plan is to put it back in, get these first two passed, and then put that part back in like 6 months or a year. But there's no way I would ever get it to pass right now during the pandemic. Not without them knowing. If
they're listening to their supervisors on this, if they say they have to ask what their supervisors want, if the money isn't going back to the towns, none of the supervisors are going to support it.
Well, you're not. Well, the idea is that it's going to be more revenue if we have this contract with Airbnb. So,
but not for me.
So wouldn't you want? But if the county gets more money, then that helps in everything else. So if the county's making more money, then one, it makes it easier for me to ask for the distribution to the towns in 6 months or a year, and it also makes it easier to make this argument about the sales tax. You just said we should find other ways, other revenue to account on. So this plan would give more revenue to the county, which will help you one way or another. And it certainly won't hurt you, and it will help your constituents because it costs them money to in this, the way it's working right now, it's more of a fine than a tax.
I mean, we still have the issue of we have to do all the work.
This is not, you're not doing anything with this plan.
We're
This
going to
is
have to
just-
inspect
No.
them.
What?
We're gonna have
That's
to-
not in this at all. All it is if you have an Airbnb right now, what happens is the county finance department uses a third-party company. It guesstimates how much you're doing, and it sends you a letter telling you you owe money and asks you over and over again. This resolution just says if you have an Airbnb and somebody goes to rent it, Airbnb charges them the tax, and then Airbnb gives it to us in whatever quarterly payments. So, right now, if you want to charge $100 and you want to, and you're going to be asked by finance to pay this tax, and you up the price, that it also makes it more, you're less competitive than someone in Dutchess who is already being charged through Airbnb because they publish the base price. And so that's all this is doing, is saying, and we would recoup way more money this way, and the money would be out of the pockets of the people from New Jersey and New York City who are coming up here, and not just out of the pockets of Ulster County residents.
Yeah, it seems cleaner and more efficient.
Yeah.
And it's more money. It really will be more money.
Well, you have my vote.
And honestly,
I like
I
that.
think it'll be easier for me to ask to redistribute some of it to the towns and villages once they see that it's making them more money.
And
it's not a pandemic.
I like that, Eve, especially given the housing situation right now, that we need support for that right now.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the norm in across the state? Aren't other counties doing it that way, or the trend is to do this fix to make sure?
I think it was a weird thing that the original resolution said that the money goes to tourism. I don't think every county does that. I think it's strange that it was sort of earmarked that way. It's probably better if that hadn't happened, there'd probably be, you wouldn't earmark it, you would just have the county use it how it wants. But because it was already earmarked for tourism for so many years, I was like, well, maybe it's just more palatable if I just say, well, some of it can be used for tourism, but we also want to use it for housing.
Wasn't it the bed tax that got, was it 2% was the bed tax, and that went to tourism, and then the rest was just general?
That's this one. Yeah. This is the occupancy tax.
I want to make sure that we vote on the sales tax resolution because we switched topics and we didn't pass the resolution. So we don't want to forget. So I'd like to move the sales tax resolution for the village.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll move the same for the town. It's David.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Awesome. Did we want to talk more about short-term rentals, or do we want to go on to item 4? Hey, Pip. So item 4 is we wanted to do a resolution in response to very current events condemning the murder of George Floyd by police in Minneapolis, and also condemn all acts of police violence and commit to act locally and to be an anti-racist community. So this is very timely. The legislature, I should say, I'll go through what's, I'll give a description of what's in the resolution. But before I do so, I think it's important to note, I think I can speak on behalf of the village board. We feel there's an urgency for our community to hear from us on this topic. And also, we have included some asks of the legislature, and they're talking about these issues right now. So we need to get this message to Albany now. So I'm asking that I don't know if you and the town board have a 2-meeting rule, but we have a 2-meeting rule whereby we spread discussions out over, if it's a new resolution, we have a first read at the first meeting, and then the first time you can vote on it. But this one needs to happen now, I think, and I think the village board is with me, because our community needs to hear this statement for us now. And we also need to get this to our legislators, because they're literally discussing these issues now, and next week might be too late. I mean, literally, some
reconvening
of the
next
stuff
week.
in there, like 50A and you know, the police accountability stuff. That's basically what they're in Albany doing right now, and that's what the asks of, you know, the anti police violence activism world is asking for right now. So did you say something, Alex?
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was just saying that they are, in fact, reconvening next week. The leader, Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins, released her statement on Monday, kind of explaining that, you know, they're reconvening because they have to, and that's why they were in conference on Tuesday of this past week, and we don't know what date they'll be out. I haven't seen, you know, an updated LRS calendar, but you know, early this week they are going to go back to Albany and you know, do what they can to legislatively tackle white supremacy. And you know, being New Paltz, it's pretty important to do whatever we can to support, you know, our legislators doing the right thing in Albany to this end.
Yeah, and I just want to add that one of the biggest complaints of government is that we're slow to act. And when it comes to racism, we can't be slow here. I mean, we have to do it now. It wasn't done yesterday. George Floyd was murdered 10 days ago. This should be something that's on all of our minds since even before that. And tomorrow, frankly, is just too late for us to move on something this important. We owe it to our community to make it a safer, unified place. And just frankly, as a board of mostly white folks, I think it's really important for us to move on this quickly.
So what we put in the resolution is, we'll put this on our websites when we pass it. Hopefully, when we pass it, I'm feeling good. That we respect the inherent dignity of all individuals. That no one should be made to live in fear of violence because of the color of their skin. New Paltz is a place that values equity and inclusivity. And right now in our world, so many people are facing hatred, discrimination, and violence because of white supremacy. And we think it's crucial to speak out now and let our community know that we're committed to speaking out and fighting back against racism and its harms. We note the disproportionate impacts of COVID on Black Americans that is happening right now. And amidst this, George Floyd was coldly and brutally murdered in Minneapolis by a police officer, while several other officers idly watched him die. Our chief of police put out a statement that is aligned with this idea that it is murder or it was murder. Rosendale, chief of police, the leader of the national organization for police, condemned the murder of George Floyd. This is a tipping point moment, in part because there is a almost clear consensus in our across both anti-police violence folks and police officers that this is unacceptable. We talk about Black Americans are 3 times as likely to be killed by cops. I don't know if I put that in there, but I know that stat. But that Blacks comprise only 13% of the population, but are about 1 in 4 of people who are killed by police. We note that there are empirically proven use of force policies that you can have to reduce police violence, and we listed and provided a link to our town of New Paltz Police's defensive action policy, where you can see that we actually have enacted and have in place many of these already. We say that we stand united as two boards in the goal to always legislate with love in a way that fosters a community of unlearning, undoing, and working to defeat racism. We thank the protesters and the organizers of Saturday's march, or blanket of justice, as it was called, because we spread out in tentacles into the streets. So we thank the organizers for working with the town and village boards and the town of New Paltz Police to make sure that we did have a peaceful and safe anti-police violence protests in our community. We thank our police chief, Rob Lucchese, for his statement and leadership during this time in the protest planning, as well as his statement about the murder of George Floyd and his acknowledgement of our entrenched systemic racism. And we thank him also for his telling the community and letting them know that he wants to listen to what the community has to say in the hopes that dialogue can lead to positive change. I did things out of order. We thank the protesters. We thank the organizers. We have two paragraphs that only note the town board, because the police are the purview of the town board, where we talk about the town council committing to publicly, transparently and thoroughly analyzing all police department spending, hiring, training, and support services, as well as any local use of force policies and contracts, with a keen constructive eye as to how they protect and serve our community, and if not, how we can improve them. As well as the town council commits to working with our police department to set up police accountability that buttresses against police brutality and abuse, builds trust, and makes it safer for all of us. We're still sort of working on a paragraph of what the village, how the role the village could play in this, and maybe we could have a conversation about that. We have a paragraph about the package of legislation that we're asking Albany to support. It's basically the package that the legislators of color, all the different, the Black Caucus, et cetera, the caucuses of color are pushing in Albany right now, which is everything from making it a hate crime to issue a false 9/11 complaint, the repeal of 50A, which they're already conferencing on in Albany, legislation that would allow the Office of the Special Prosecutor to investigate and prosecute all criminal cases against law enforcement. The STAT Act, which has to do with making sure that police departments report on racial disparities in the enforcement of low-level encounters and the number of killings by police throughout the state. Requirement of police officers and peace officers to issue appearance tickets to individuals charged with certain offenses instead of arresting such individuals. And those that we put in there, we took straight from the suite of legislation that those caucuses are pushing for in Albany right now. And then we just do our, at the end, we say we're going to send it to all the folks above us in government. That's the resolution, and let's talk about it.
Hey, this is Dan here. So first of all, thank you for putting this together. I think we can all agree this is important, and specifically on the legislative issues, I think we're all very much in agreement on it. The only item that I did want to bring up here is just, I believe it is, therefore be it resolved, it's the one relative to the village board holding the town board accountable. And just in an attempt to make sure that we can do this unanimously, or as close to unanimously as possible, I think a number of us have already expressed as well that we feel that sets an unnecessary conflict there. And obviously we're always happy to hear insights and hear from the public. But we would prefer, or I would prefer, and I think the majority of the board would agree, just to simply remove that part of the clause.
This is Alex. What is the issue with accountability, or holding accountability. Like I see that as a very friendly term, you know, and I think I feel like that little paragraph, I think, demonstrates like, you know, we have a good relationship between the village and town boards, and we've continually been demonstrating that, you know, by meeting every month, you know, but as constituents who are, you know, also your pals, your comrades with seats at the table, you know, I feel like that's like what we're doing, you know, like.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. As constituents, that's accurate, and I think that we have no problem with that language. It's the language specifically to the village board being another entity of government. If you want to say that people should hold the police commission or the police themselves accountable, I can only speak for myself, but I'm very much in favor of that. It's just specifically naming a specific government entity that doesn't have a direct role with policing is what a number of us have asked respectfully if that would just be simply rewritten or removed.
So I hear that, you know, and thank you for answering my question. But I feel like there's got to be a sentence in there about, because, you know, the village board, we are still elected, you know, public officials and stuff. Like what is our role, like with people who have the soapbox, who have the, you know, the microphone, who have the spotlight, and who have this great relationship with you guys? Then like, how do we kind of express that? Because I think that kind of needs to be in this resolution for it to matter, to, you know, to really like mean what it needs to mean, you know, and to have the weight, you know, that it needs to carry, that like, this is like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean,
there has to be something in there about what we're doing, like having this dialogue with you guys as the, you know, police commissioners. Like, we are the people that, you know, people look to in the village. So I feel like, you know, I understand we don't legally have, you know, like any sort of power to hold accountability, you know, like that's why I didn't say like make something else, you know, but like there has to be something in there that like demonstrates the village board's commitment to being actively anti-racist and anti-white supremacist, you know, by using our elected role and our great, you know, relationship with you guys, you know, to help with the accountability.
Can I make a
But
suggestion?
I think that yep, sure, KT.
What if we just cut out and we said the Village of New Paltz Board supports the town council's commitment to doing the necessary work to ensure police accountability, comma, and then go to somehow actively being anti-racist, transparent, and publicly accessible.
Speaking just for myself, I'd be more than happy with that modification.
Okay, so let me take that from the top because I want to make sure it's English. The Village of New Paltz Board supports the town council's commitment to doing the necessary work to ensure police accountability and in actively being anti-racist, transparent, and publicly accessible in their roles as police commissioners. How do you feel about that, Alex? Is that?
I can take it.
And I want to say, like, I even, you know, I'm getting a lot of questions myself. Well, you know, there's money in the A fund and like, you know, and I'm like, we don't do the police. The town is the police. And they say, but you guys have some control over that money. And I don't think we have to have that conversation now. I think a lot of this stuff is what we're saying, that we're just starting this conversation of transparently understanding how we're going, you know, the police accountability measures that we have in place now, and how we are going to consistently take a look at that and transparently look at this issue. I mean, I think that there's some big discussions coming, yeah.
I agree. There are some big discussions coming, and I think this phrasing is better and it's probably more acceptable. I think we are all accountable to the voters, but we're not accountable to each other as boards, other than us having a good working relationship. and maybe I'm not saying that well, but I think by saying that we're accountable to each other and one is going to make sure the other board does a certain thing, I think that sets up, that will quickly erode the good working relationships we have. I think that we can have open dialogues and honest dialogues with each other, but I think this idea of one board holding another board accountable, I think is a recipe for disaster.
Can I jump in and just ask, you know, I like it better with supports the way it's written. You can just take out the word "and" in actively, and I think you've got it right.
Okay, I knew it was somewhere around there. Thank you.
And this is Julie. I'm fine with it the way it is with your changes, KT. The one thing that I was concerned about is, you know, there's also no accountability measures, and it suggests because you're an entity, you know, another government, it begs the question, what are the accountability measures? And I don't think that was really a part of what you were thinking. And still so that's one of the reasons I like it better without it.
Thank you. Yeah, again, I would say to that, like, I feel like that is a big concept, and I agree maybe part of these conversations we have with our community is so that they know what we think of as accountability measures.
Okay, KT, could I chime in too?
To concretize and articulate what police accountability, what we have going on, and how we want to move forward with it.
I just wanted to add, I came in late just because I had a really, really crazy day today. So I just saw this like an hour before this meeting. So for me, I mean, I guess I wrote in because I was a little frustrated just because I didn't really have, you know, a day to read it. I had about an hour to read it. So it would have been nice to have just a little more time. I wish I'd had more time today because I know a lot of time was put into it. So just a couple of observations from it. Word-wise, I'm a really word-specific person, but the white supremacy comment, it just seemed, it just seemed very open-ended. Is it white supremacy groups? Is it white supremacy? Because white supremacy is just a very big general concept that can be understood in so many different ways. Is it specifically white supremacy groups that are that? Or is it just the general supremacy of white people everywhere? Because there are some cultures where that isn't really very, very relevant.
Isn't that one and the same though?
So if I read I think there's context here to help answer your question, Alex.
Okay.
Because we say, given that so many communities are facing hatred, discrimination, and violence because of white supremacy, I mean, white supremacy drives the hatred and discrimination and violence is basically what we're saying. You're right, it's a big abstract concept, but it absolutely is an ideology.
Right.
So maybe that's the answer to you. I in my work, I treat it as an ideology, and it's an ideology which is a standpoint, perspective, you know, to use maybe more for folks at home, less academic word, and it drives hatred, discrimination, and violence, clearly.
Alex, I just also want to add, I get being busy, but this was sent yesterday at 9:40 a.m., so it wasn't sent today.
Not to the town board, I don't think.
I messed up. It was later in the day because I did a reply all that didn't have them. So I think it was later in the afternoon. But
yeah, thanks, Michelle. I just happened I happened to have gotten it at a bad time. I was right in the middle of a grant, and I was just like, you know, didn't have a second to breathe to try to get that grant out.
Did you have other points, Alex?
Yes, I just had one more point. And again, I'm very picky with words, so you'll have to bear with me. Legislate with love, to me, just also seemed very vague. You know, I mean, I legislate with a position of caring, of concern, of wanting to make a change. I mean, I feel like legislating with love is also incredibly open-ended. I understand what you mean. I understand that love is a beautiful word, but when legislate comes with it, I legislate with I legislate with, yes, my heart, but I also legislate with the idea that I want to care and I want to concern and I want to change more than just legislating with love. To me, that just
I think that phrase has come into parlance in response to, not legislating with hate. So it's become popular in, everyday language. Well, not every day, because not everybody talks about legislating, but
other suggestions?
Yeah.
Alex Baer, do you have another suggestion though? I was wondering.
I was just saying, it's legislating from a position of caring and concern.
So can we just do love, caring and concern?
Yes. Thank you.
Everybody cool with that?
If
we all like
everyone's
caring
okay.
and concern.
The same, Alex, I wonder about the other, did you have a suggestion for your other concern, your other point?
Well, again, it's just, for me, the white supremacy is just, it's such a, I mean, I guess it's hard for me because I grew up in the Deep South. I mean, apart from being Latino, I grew up in Georgia. And the idea of white supremacy is just so laden with so many layers for me, because it's not general, the whole universe white supremacy, it's white supremacist groups. It's the radical white supremacist groups.
Oh, I would argue very differently. Very differently.
White supremacy,
it
just as like a term.
Culture. White is normalized.
Right.
It recognizes racism as systemic, within the context of our, of a culture, that we are all swimming in, if that makes sense. So like I feel you, so much. It's like it feels so harsh because we're in it, and it feels like it should be direct, just a term for groups and stuff. But it actually it's the word to describe America at this time, and like I feel we need to have it in at least one of these whereases, because we don't want this system. We want to be against this system.
But
now I get where you're coming from.
I think a very large amount of us included white people who aren't supremacists, who work very hard every single day. Let me finish. We work very hard every single day to not be supreme. I feel like that having worked with outreach and with people, for 20, 30 years in my life, and also from the Latin culture, to not be white and supreme. And I know that there are millions of people in the world who aren't white and supreme. They're just white. They happen to be white, but I'm not supreme. I don't feel supreme. I don't act supreme. And my whole life has been, I understand what it means. I get it. But it's just it's a very wide brush that can much more be, that it can be worded much more specifically. Maybe, I'm trying to think
it's racism. The word is racism. Violence because of racism.
It's racism. Yeah, or maybe racist white supremacists.
It's a system of racism, but I feel like a system of racism is like, why are we using a long definition when we have the actual term? Like that is the word.
Yeah, but if it's not clear to even us who's passing the resolution, right, then clearly
we've passed multiple with it. So I thought you
yeah.
guys have.
We had a march to end white supremacy by the Women in Black that we had a resolution about. I guess this is a strange sticking point for me.
Yeah.
No one is.
I'm fine with the phrasing of white supremacy, just for the record. I hear your points, Alex. I'm just speaking for myself on it.
Yeah.
Can I just ask that if we're gonna really look at this as a group and try to gain consensus to do this together, that it not just be an argument between the folks who wrote it and the folks who are saying, that we can actually have a conversation, and that it's not just, let me answer your, you don't need to answer for it. Let's hear what people think about, what's being brought. So it's not just like, we're refuting everyone's whatever. It just feels a little bit like one-on-one instead of like a conversation that we're having together.
Thank you, David. My bottom line is that I just want to feel that I feel like I could have written this and I would be okay with it. That's all.
And David, I think we are having a conversation. We're all of our voices are being heard, and this is a hard conversation, and it's okay to have a hard conversation.
It's true. Just let Alex finish speaking before you start
I
with
am.
Newton. I'm not talking to you specifically, Michelle. I'm saying as general, I'd like it to be open to have a conversation about it all together.
We are.
It's all difficult.
I guess I
you're
think
not hearing what I'm saying.
I think that the feeling is that, you know, this was kind of handed to the town board at the last minute, and even our suggestions are, you know, we almost have to have a majority of the town board all agreeing before the suggestions. It feels like we're not being heard or acknowledged with our input. That's how I read it, and I mean that's how I felt earlier. And I don't want to speak for Alex, but it seems like Alex has to fight really hard just to have a single word changed in a huge resolution, and it's like we're getting a lot of pushback just for trying to add our comments. That's what I feel like.
I'm sorry.
I feel up to now we've had a really good back and forth and compromise going, actually, Neil. I think, I mean, like Michelle said, like I'm kind of taken aback that in our community we're discussing like we had a march in our town against white supremacy. I think it is in the common lexicon, and so this is rough.
You're taking it back
This is
of the thousands of words, 1,000 words you've written that we want to talk about some of the words. You really surprised about that?
That you don't want to say that we live in a white supremacist country? Yeah, I feel like I should.
Say that. You don't say
we
that.
all know we live in a white supremacist country.
So,
I do feel strongly about that.
I think it's a little bit more general than that, because I don't want to be stuck with like every single little word, because I know that there are many ways to say something. None of them incorrect, just variations of the same color. No pun intended. But I think one of the feelings that I get when I'm going to put my signature on something or give an okay on something, as the town, as our group who are looking at it, it would just be really nice if the town could get together for an hour Zoom meeting, just talk over it and just go over the little things that we think that might be different, and then come back to you with those suggestions. Because again, I totally agree. I feel like it should all be done with love. I think it should all be done with sharing and caring, because I'm a big collaborator, and I always feel you can come to the middle, always. But it would just be nice if we could just have a chance for us to just talk about it, go over what we feel, and then come back with a few suggestions and then have a discussion, even though I know it's urgent, and I agree. I mean, us at Unison, we just came out with something yesterday that we worked on really hard with my whole staff. But I shared it with my whole staff, and we talked about it for hours so that it really was a mutual voice of us. And I guess I would just love for the town to be able to have even an hour to be able to discuss this amongst ourselves. And then I'm like, yes, this is what I feel is okay. You guys feel it's okay. And then out it goes immediately. That's my two cents.
Can I?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Alex, and Dan here. So I think this is a good conversation overall. I also think if we're going to be really honest, that we don't have another meeting if we want to weigh in relative to 50A. And I get that this was a time-sensitive thing, so we have to push this a little further. And I think we've had some good process conversations. But I think relative to the overall concept, I'm hearing like 99.9% consensus. The one issue that I raised on behalf of most of the board, we agreed on. Personally, Alex, not to be rude, I have no problem with the term white supremacist. But what I would say is that just in order for us, if we're going to do this, to be on the record with it, I do think we should do it tonight. And I think that maybe going forward, we just want to have a different conversation on how we do these things. Acknowledging that we can do that better. But I think at this point,
I agree. We have to get this out because of the timeliness of it. But we've often, wordsmithed things a little bit more after we've all voted on it, with the understanding that, things are going to change a little bit. Some words are going to get moved around. And as long as, the substance doesn't change much, but it gives Alex an opportunity to have some input on this. And the reason I don't want to do this for everything, but this is, I think it's important that we're all voting on this and it reflects how everyone feels. And so if, I'd be happy to say, look, I'm happy with 99% of this. I don't have any strong feelings, but if Alex has strong feelings, then I think that, Alex and KT could work on this tomorrow, and a day or 2 days, this is not going to be the end of the world if it doesn't get sent out. The clerk could mail all this stuff out on Monday. Is that unrealistic?
Personally, I'd like to see this get done today if we could. I think there's very little we're really talking about, and I do think it's vitally important to be out there with it, and especially if we do agree. And I think we've already tackled some of the hardest points.
I'm not getting a clear read, Alex B. So would you be okay in supporting it if the word the white supremacy is in there or not? Or you're saying you're uncomfortable, and if it's in there, you're going to vote no?
Could we change it to racism?
No,
it's not the same thing.
I mean, I agree that there's, universal white supremacy. I guess just in the context, I'm just trying to be so democratic here. And maybe it's because I'm doing this, but it just seems like it could be just worded a little differently in my and again, it probably is. If somebody handed this to me and I would have had a little time to just do a little bit more edit and think about it more, I'd be more comfortable with it. It just seems.
Alex, how about a systemic white, because of systemic white supremacy?
Yes.
The word systemic was before white supremacy.
Yes.
That's what it is. We have a system of white supremacy.
I would be fine with that.
Can I, you're welcome.
It's there. I already wrote it.
Great.
I typed it. Thank you.
Can I ask for a change also?
Sure.
Down lower, the New Paltz Town Council commits to working with our police department to set up police accountability. I would say review and strengthen police accountability.
Yeah, you know what? When I read that one section, I had a passing thought along those lines.
Julie brought that to my attention, and I feel like review and strengthen police accountability is more accurate to what we need to do.
Thanks,
yeah,
David.
I just have to find it.
I was going to mention that too.
I totally had a real, yes, thank you.
And
this is Tim. I think David's changes are very helpful. And
instead of strengthen, instead of set up, it's strengthen?
Review and strengthen. We need to review current police accountability and strengthen it.
Yay, David.
And I think Michelle and KT did a fantastic job, and everyone else who worked on this did a great job of creating this document. It's very well done.
Really strong.
Thanks, Tim.
Can I just ask in the
I promise, Alex B, we don't always have to do things this fast.
But this is important.
And I encourage the town to enact the 2-meeting rule in your policy.
Great. The paragraph above that is a little concerning because I'm afraid it's not feasible, which is a completely public analysis of all police department spending, hiring, training, and support services. I want it to be transparent, and I want public input, and that our review is transparent, and that we report transparently, and the police commission says this is all the things we reviewed, the complete policies, that the policies are transparent, but to publicly analyze everything, which to me means that we're actually doing the analysis and the study at meetings, at public meetings. That's not likely going to be the way it's going to go. It's much more likely going to be like, we're going to go in and we're going to look over all their policies. We're going to do that. We're going to report back to the public at the next meeting. We're going to say where we're going. We're going to say, now it's time for input. The chief is ready to hear your concerns, your stories, talk about specific issues, but it's not going to be a public analysis. We're going to.
Yeah, I hear you that there's definitely constraints. There's worker protection laws. There's lots of.
I already adjusted.
So what is your exact suggestion?
I already adjusted that paragraph in one of the paragraphs I sent by email.
Okay.
and you may take a look at that and see if that meets the need to replace.
I missed that. So is it a total rewrite, or can you just not tell me?
I just
Hold on,
want
let me
to be
just
accurate.
look in my email.
Hang on 1 second. I can say what it is.
Yeah, that.
Hang on, just looking for it.
While you're doing that, Dan here again. I kind of think relative to transparency, which isn't a totally specific term here, I would argue that, David, how you described that is as transparent of a process as we can have, and therefore I do think it's fine in that clause. That's just my interpretation, though.
This is what I wrote. It's therefore be it resolved. Maybe I'll just, therefore be it resolved. It was in an email I sent at 1:31 today to all of you.
Okay, I think I just found it.
And it's therefore be it resolved, the New Paltz Town Council as Police Commission commits to thoroughly analyzing all police department spending, hiring, training, and support services, as well as any local use of force policies and contracts, with a keen and constructive eye as to how they protect and serve the entire community, with a priority toward ensuring racial equity, social justice, and community transparency, and that such analysis will include ample opportunities for community input, questions, and suggestions, and that a report of findings and suggested changes are transparently shared with opportunities for feedback with the New Paltz community.
All right, sorry, I totally didn't see
Okay,
that.
there was a lot of emails today.
Yeah,
I can send it to you again if you need me to.
I got it. I put it
Okay,
in there,
good.
but is
Just
everybody?
that's-
I just cut and pasted. Is everybody good with that? I like how you expanded on
Just so that it's
ample
accurate.
to
to what we're-
opportunities for input and all that fun stuff. Although I don't like periods in the middle whereases, so I might have to make it a semicolon.
You do it.
To answer your question, I'm certainly in favor of it.
I'm
Are
just
there any
giving,
other edits from the town beyond that? Just trying to see as we're having this conversation.
I think it's great.
So then, that being said, unless anyone from the village has an answer, I'm guessing you guys don't, just because this was presented by you guys. I'm gonna move the amendment as amended for the town.
Second, Julie?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll move it for the village.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So it's all in the doc now, so no revisions need to be made. And we were good on that village paragraph, right? With those edits?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. I mean, we just voted on it, so. So we're good.
Yay.
Thank you, everyone. A lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then so you guys are on to village board agenda?
Yeah, I motion to move bills and claims.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Great. So that's it for the joint meeting. So if you guys can stick around, or you can adjourn the joint meeting. It's up to you.
I want to thank everyone for all their hard work on that.
Also, thank you for putting the Pride resolution on your agenda. It's, a little sad right now because of our lack of Pride parades. So Alex was the primary author on that resolution, and it was important to us at this moment in time to put a little history in there and talk about our community's role in LGBTQ plus movements, and to affirm our continued support. I think many of us will be doing virtual celebrations of Gay Pride.
And a testament to the change that is possible.
Right. Who'd have thunk it? I'm old enough to say who'd have thunk it. But so
Alex,
much
thank
more,
you. It was
so
a
much
pretty
more
lovely-
needs to be done.
Okay, so you guys want to stick around? It's up
I'm
to you.
bailing.
I'm gonna
Okay.
go. Thank you. Good
Bye.
night.
So
Thank you.
village is adjourning at 9:22.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. All right, now we can speed things up. So I wanted to you know, at the last meeting, we talked a little bit about the community solar and the CCA, right? Letters went out. Maybe some of you got those letters. I just wanted to explain it to everyone. There's some confusion, I think, and I explained it the best I can. But if you didn't opt out of the CCA, you're getting, right now you're getting 100% New York produced renewable energy. All this is it lets you pick where you would like to get your renewable energy from and it's called a community solar program. So if you don't have solar panels on your roof, you can decide, well, I'm going to get my solar energy from like this local solar farm. And there are a bunch all around us. And this is just giving you the opportunity to do that. And you get the benefits of, you know, you get a 10% off your electricity bill. And there's no commitment or anything else. And what we're doing is, you know, we're doing the outreach with it's the same firm, Joule Energy, who's running the CCA. They're helping find customers for these solar farms. And because it's so much more efficient, then, you know, they're willing to make a $50 donation because they don't have to send out mailers and junk mail and ads and stuff like that. So they're willing to make a donation, and we chose to have that money go towards Family of New Paltz. And you know, we just since our last meeting when we okayed it, they've already raised $1,000 for the Family of New Paltz from people signing up in New Paltz for community solar. So, you know, you're saving the planet and you're saving people's lives. So, you know, there's some phone numbers on the letters that people sent out. If they have questions, call these guys up. You know, they're not going to give you a hard sell or anything. They're just going to answer your questions. I would say I did it when we originally did the CCA with a different solar farm. I am saving money on my bill. The only pain is you get two bills. You know, it's not all in your same. I have to pay my Central Hudson bill for the delivery, and I have to pay this other NextAmp is the company I have for my solar electricity. It's kind of annoying. It's because it's not allowed from the Public Service Commission yet, but that's going to change, and eventually you'll get it on the same bill. I just wanted to let people know that it's working. We've raised $1,000, hopefully some more. And then with that, let's move on. I'd like to make a motion to approve items A through G on the consent agenda.
Second, Dan.
All in favor or discussion?
For discussion, this is Julie. I just wondered the pool hire, I guess. Can you explain that?
He's always worked he works part-time when Bill's not working. And he's going to be replacing Bill when, you know, Bill is not going to be running the pool forever. He's said that he's probably going to be leaving. And, you know, we need to make sure that he knows how to do everything when Bill leaves. And that,
it just made me wonder about what our status is. I read the article that was in, I guess, you know, some online paper today.
Yeah, the New Paltz Times, right?
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
You know, the county
comes across.
Yeah, the county is now,
like
you know,
8-1 or something. There's some, you know what
I'm
sorry.
So the county is going to be giving out permits. So they're going to allow pools to open. Dutchess County is going to be opening their pool, we're told. Other towns are going to be opening their pools. Probably, you know, camps are going to be allowed by the end of June. So there's probably a pretty good chance that they're going to be allowing outdoor activities like that. And so we're planning to see if we can still open the pool. That's the hope.
Okay.
So, but, and, you know, we're working on a plan right now that we'd be following the CDC has come out with guidelines for pools. And
Right.
so Bill and I have been talking about that, talking to some experts. So, and that has to be approved by the county. So,
So just in case I get questions, because sometimes we do, or I do, about like the swim team, for example, if the pool does open, might the swim team happen, or is that definitely not? Or do you know?
They practice pretty early in the morning.
Yes, they do.
So it doesn't really affect, we're not going to open the pool up to the public at 6 in the morning.
Well, they
Anyway.
usually do. They get the pool till noon, I think, or at least the public.
I think they're there till 10, and then there's like swim lessons and swim yoga, and there's a whole bunch of different stuff that goes on. Not that all of that might not happen because we may be opening, in July. Bill and I, and we can all talk about this as a board. We're going to have to reduce the total number of people allowed in the pool area just to reduce density. And so, how do you account for that? Do you expand the hours? Do you open up the pool before noon because you can't have as many people in it? And do you then have shifts where people can't stay for 8 hours? Maybe you had a block of time or something like that. So that all of that's on the table. But right now we're trying to figure out, like, can we open the pool, do the maintenance, things like that. But I'd like to think that we can, but only if we can do it safely.
And we're kind of relying. I mean, it seems like things are opening up a lot faster than what we thought that was going to happen 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering, for our purposes, is that because, wow, we really feel like we've nailed this thing down in a way that we're not going to get the spread we were worried about and things like that? Is there a sense of that? Not that any of us are experts on this, but some have been exposed to the news more than others. Is it the fact that it's like, hey, things are going much better than expected. We don't need to be on this 6-week plan. I mean, camps weren't supposed to open till the earliest phase 4, and now they're before phase 4.
Yeah, and outside dining for restaurants were not supposed to open until phase 3, and now they're in phase 2.
I think they're learning a lot more about the virus, and I think that probably has a lot to do with it. They're learning a lot more about how it's, how it's communicated. They learned a lot about why people are getting it in certain ways and not in others. At first telling us that it was contact with materials. Now they're saying that not so much, that it has to be cumulative. So maybe a lot of it seems to be the information amount that they're getting on the virus is helping people feel more comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's some of that. I agree. I think it's also that you have to, we're going to be doing some form of this for a while, right? Maybe wearing masks indoors for the next year, right? And so I think part of it is you have to figure out what things are effective and what things are allowable. And so, is it safe to let people eat outside so that they don't go insane? Can you have kids go to summer camp because it's safe because the parents have to go back to work? I think that's probably part of it as well. And at least when I look at the things that they're not opening up concerts anytime soon. Even outdoor concerts, maybe they are. I don't think so. And I think that's because they're saying, well, some things are more dangerous than others, and let's try to allow things that aren't as dangerous, just so people don't go crazy. And once they go crazy, or not crazy, they just lose patience, and then they don't do anything safe.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, forget it. I'm just gonna have a barbecue with all my friends, and we're all gonna hang out.
Yeah.
And I think is the goal. And I think, for me, that's, I think one of the reasons that it's important that if we can open the pool, to try to open it, because it's going to be the difference between, horrible summer and a summer that, some kids going to, survive, at least my kids anyway, so.
Thanks for your perspective, everyone.
But I think things are going really well. Dan might know the latest, but I think we're down to 20 active cases in New Paltz.
We're doing pretty well. And phase 2, assuming nothing crazy happens, is likely on Tuesday. So you could start to see outdoor seating early. I mean, the one thing I will say is that the state has rapidly changed some of these systems they've created. And for that, that's accelerated some things for us. But I also think that we should be prepared to quickly have to respond to certain things opening up, or respond to when we think things are going to open and then they're pushed back a bit. Other regions in the state north of us that were about to enter phase 2, the governor quickly put a halt to it and then decided that that actually could proceed. I'm not knocking the state. It's a hard task they have to deal with, but the reality is no one's an expert on this. We've never had to do this before. And so I think we all should just be kind of flexible to a degree, have to roll with the punches as it comes down from the state, which is largely dictating how we're going to handle the scenario at a local level.
And along those lines, you know, we're going to talk about it later on, or we're going to talk about it now, actually. You know, it's the next thing on the agenda after we approve this. But we've been meeting, department heads have been meeting twice a week with the virtual meetings, and trying to like sort out problems. You know, the goal is that, you know, we want the town offices and all parts of the town to be able to open and then close again, because we may be going back and forth like this for a while. And you guys have your own businesses. You're probably thinking exactly the same thing. You know, we need to put mechanisms in place that let us go back to normal, semi-normal, back to, you know, this abnormal state. And then what kind of things do we do that make it safe for employees and for people going into, say, town hall? You know, so we're talking about hand washing stations and protective gear, and do we put the plexiglass up like they have in different stores? Do we put boxes outside of people's offices so you don't have to enter and put something on their desk? You can just leave it outside in the hall. You know, so those are the things we're thinking of, and there are different templates that businesses, you probably have to fill these out. You know, what is your plan for reopening? We don't have to do that as a municipality, but we've chosen to do that just as an exercise. So we're filling out one of those plans in the same way that a local business would. You know, how often are things going to be cleaned? What's the protocol for, you know, when someone gets sick? And so just so we have you know, I like protocols, right? And so it's going to be a protocol, and the mandate from the state for when we can bring employees, 100% of the employees working back in the office has been pushed back to the end of June. So a lot of the staff are still working from home. And so we have some time to do that. And I put it in the packet tonight. You guys have done this actually. So if you have any thoughts or input, I'd appreciate it.
Neil, I still think you have to get an all in favor on the consent agenda.
Yes, I do. So if any more questions, all in favor on the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, David.
Aye.
And then the next is, if you guys want to talk about those protocols, we have another meeting to talk about it, and we'll have them more fleshed out, and I'll pass them around. I just wanted to let you guys know that we're working on this. Chris Marks has been super helpful, and Dawn Merrill, his assistant, she's been spending literally hours on the phone trying to track down some of these things, you know, sanitizing stations and stuff like that. We're getting close. And then, so that's all I have for that. The next is, and thank you, David, for making sure this did not slip off the radar. This is, I'd like to make a motion to set a public hearing and make a motion to declare lead agency and to set a public hearing for June 18th at 7 p.m. for a local law to amend section 133-2 subdivision A and section 133-5, the Code of New Paltz. This is for the weight limit of motor vehicles on Old Route 299.
I second David.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. And then Julie, do you want to do the resolution declaring June 2020 LGBTQ month?
Do I want to read it, do you mean?
No, I mean, you can, do you want to make the resolution, or, you know, second?
Sure. I would like to move that we declare June 2020 LGBTQ plus is it awareness?
Virtual Pride Month.
Virtual Pride Month. Excellent. So happy to do that. Thank you, Neil. I thought the resolution that I heard Alex was the main writer on certainly was lovely, and it made me remember all the wet and wonderful, often wet, pride parades that have gone through our town in New Paltz. And, you know, the people want to come together, and it's such a tough time to not be able to. But, boy, I can't wait till when we can.
Yeah, me too.
So.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. So this next one, so you guys all know we are in the process of negotiating with the DEP for the what the construction IGA or intergovernmental agreement will be for the Water District 5. And so it's a long drawn out process, but as part of that, we had to have the engineers re-look at the costs because it's been, you know, when we originally had these estimates put together, it was, I think, 2015 or something like that, maybe 14. And so before we agreed to, you know, constructing this water district and getting reimbursed for it all by DEP, we wanted to make sure that the amounts were correct. So they've gone up, there's inflation. The DEP, it's still, you know, part of the agreement is they reimburse us for all the costs, but in our, we need to go back, set a public hearing, and pass another, what they're calling the bonding attorney said it's a 202B resolution. So just stating what the total cost will be and stating that the DEP is going to reimburse us for all those costs. It's kind of, it's, you know, standard stuff that we have to do, but this is just, so my motion is to make a motion to set a public hearing for set a date and time for a public hearing of the 202B resolution on June 18th at 7:05 p.m.
Second, David.
Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Neil, can I just ask, did you set an actual date for the public hearing for item 3? I just want to make sure you set that.
That is June 18th at 7 p.m.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So that's at our next meeting, we'll have both of those. And then this last one is it's called a Nexus. This is some of the electronic stuff that is used for Channel 21 to publicly broadcast. And ours is on its way out. I mean, I think it's a bunch of years old. Bob Fagan was able to get a used one in really good shape on, you know, at an auction or eBay. They're going to get it. They're going to make sure it works. A new one is about, I think, $14,000.
Yeah.
This we got a used one for $2,750. It's
amazing.
Yeah, Anton, you know, the Public Access Committee, we're very lucky. Anton and Stuart, and they're going to be able to check it out and make sure it works. And if it doesn't work, they'll send it back. But
you're doing a great job, by the way.
We're very excited. This is also going to allow us to live stream our meetings in the future to like YouTube once we get back and we meet virtually again. So I like that because not everyone has Channel 21. You know, it will also be in high definition, so it'll be a little bit better.
Will we look better?
Well, I think you're gonna see how bad we look. And then Bob also mentioned that it's going to allow us to automate this, so our actual monthly meeting costs are going to go down, so it will pay for itself over time. And we have to do it. You know, we're doing a lot of the local religious organizations are broadcasting now on Channel 21, thanks to, you know, Anton and Bob set that up. So a lot of people now, that's how they're attending services through our public access channel. And so we kind of want to, while this is going on, it's important that we get this fixed. And so this is a motion to spend the $2,750 on the Nexus.
I second that, Alex.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And that's all we have.
Alex, you're the liaison to that committee,
Yeah, I've been
the
working.
public access. Thank you for your work.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I need to work with them even more. But yeah,
Yeah, I think it's the importance of the channel 21. I think is highlighted as people are kind of stuck at home.
yeah.
I do have a question. So I've been asked if I have content. Is that, I'm intrigued, and maybe that would mean that people could watch it also on YouTube. Is that, so
Yeah,
if,
I mean, right now it's just on right now it's just on
Right.
the channel, but I think they're trying to get it so that it will be on YouTube as well. But I think if I don't know, Neil, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of it has to do with the strength of the signal. So, and the way in which it's taped. So this new machine that we're getting is going to allow them to have that high D on YouTube, which they can't do now.
I mean, I had to read through that just to be able to give that explanation a whole bunch of times. It's kind of complicated stuff, but I think you're right. That's exactly, you described it well.
But I think going into the future, I think it's such a great thing for us to have just availability so that people can put in programming. And it opens us up to so many educational things.
Yeah.
Really a lot. And also, if any of you know of anybody who has content, you know, I mean, Wild Earth could be doing stories that kids have for being outside and sharing it with other kids. Or, you know, a lot of kids programming would be good because a lot of kids like to, you know, have this available. And then if it can be eventually switched to YouTube,
Right.
you know, it's the whole town that can join in and have programming there. So I'm super excited about it.
what would be neat too is if there is educational programming that's, you know, live streams to YouTube, it probably is a seamless, you know, step to pull it over to, let's say, a Facebook feed. So
Yeah.
like our town Facebook could be more than it is now.
I mean, one of the things that I talked to Anton about, and again, this may be a ways away, but I know that there's some school districts that the kids don't have computers. So it might be a way for the kids to be able to do remote learning through the television,
Mm-hmm.
which would be great when you have disadvantaged neighborhoods where they don't have access to computers.
We have a load of content on our website, videos and all kinds
Great.
of remote learning. We do it weekly, and the town can grab any of that they want and repurpose it.
Awesome.
Cool stuff.
Well, that's all I have.
You heard it there, Alex.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get Sesame Street on there, Julie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the last bit is, you know, we're still trying to work this out, but, you know, restaurants are going to be opening remotely next Tuesday, right? We're still trying to figure out how to, because it goes against the zoning and the codes, and none of that's allowed. And so,
What do you mean by, can you explain? I'm sorry.
Eating outside, eating outdoors.
Yeah,
Outdoor
so
seating.
outdoor seating.
Oh, it does.
Neil said
Oh.
remote. Neil said remote. He didn't.
I know, right?
I meant outdoor seating. Yeah. So the outdoor seating is not, you know, that's not on their site plans. It's not allowed. And so all of the towns are like, how do we, you know, we want to be able to allow this. We want to be able to make sure these businesses can serve people, and it's the safest way possible. Like, do it out on the sidewalk and set some tables up. You know, and so Stacy and I have been emailing back and forth, but all the towns are like, how are we going to do this? You know, we can't really expect people to file like, you know, revisions to their site plans and go through the planning board. You know, we'll have a vaccine by the time they get through the planning board.
Right.
I mean, and it would be really expensive. So we're trying to figure out some quick way to do this. You know, and I don't know if there's, the only thing I was thinking of is, you know, if the board could authorize me to sign off on any documents that might be needed to make this happen. We don't even know what they would be yet. We just got direction today from the governor.
I'll move to that effect.
Second.
I'll second.
Yeah, like, we don't know what they're going to be, but we don't want to say, well, we're going to have another town board meeting and hold these guys up. You know, we want to do whatever we can to make it easy.
All in favor?
Yeah, I'll see if we. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Aye.
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 Dan,
I
sorry.
was just going to say that I hearing that too, I'd like to reach out to someone at the state to see if maybe there's some kind of executive order that could establish a waiver or something like that. Because if every community, I didn't think of that, every community is going to have the problem, and I feel like the state can step in.
Yeah, the town supervisors, we had a call with the Ulster County Chamber on Tuesday. And that was the first thing. We're like, God, you know, it sounds easy, but it's a lot more complicated. So like we can do like our own executive orders for like safety issues, but we can't, you know, make executive orders to like waive zoning, you know, or temporary.
No, I'm saying at the state level.
Yeah, I know, but if they could do it, that's what we need.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of the conversation was if there's a park close by, they would allow them to use a section of the park. Or like a Water Street Market, can, you know, Parish use that, you know, the top of the walkway and going like it, can you just expand a little further?
Yeah.
It would help.
And that's exactly what we want to do. But I think, you know, like when they filed all their site plans and everything else, the seating areas are designated for where they are. And so for it to be legal, you know, they would have to go in and amend their plans, and it would have to get approved by the planning boards. And, you know, that's just crazy. Like that's, you know, this is, we're trying to like solve this as it goes, and we can't stick to all the old ways of doing things in the middle of a pandemic.
And then what about the Department of Health, you know, covering the areas?
They're working on, they're going to work on their stuff. And the same with the Liquor Authority. You know, they normally, the way they on this call, if you had an inside bar and an outside bar, you have to have 2 permits, right? And now, are you going to make everyone get another permit? So because they're bringing a bottle of beer out to the sidewalk, you know. So I think they've solved that problem, but we would love some sort of assistance from the state on, you know, letting us solve this problem. And we certainly don't want every single town to try to struggle and solve it their own way and talk to our attorneys. And, you know, we could spend a week on this when, you know, the state could make it a blanket statement for all of us. That's what I would prefer.
Yeah.
You know, so anything you can do, Dan, that would be great.
Go, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right.
We can look like Paris.
Can I just give everyone a Zoom pro tip?
Yes, please.
Okay. Do you hate looking at your own face?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, the way you take that off is, do you know that you can get it off?
No.
Right, the right upper corner where those 3 dots are, the right upper corner of your picture.
Oh yeah.
You can hide the video of yourself, so you don't have to look at yourself.
Oh, I'm so sick of looking at myself. I can't.
That's exhausting.
You guys buy me a twisty cone one day.
Yeah, I just made myself disappear.
How do you bring yourself back?
Oh, the same way. Oh, he's muted. You're muted, David.
Wait, I don't see, where do I?
You're muted, David.
The top corner on the right of the whole big screen, it says show self view.
Oh.
Then you come back. If you really want to see what you actually look like.
I swear, I'm so I was in meetings all day today. I'm so sick of looking at myself. I'm like,
I got a tip
You're
too.
beautiful.
It helps a lot.
If you know, to mute and unmute yourself, you can, if you mute yourself and then you just hold the space bar down, it will unmute you temporarily, and then you let it go and it remutes it.
Yep.
Everyone probably knew that one already though.
No. Yeah. What?
Great, thank you.
all right, bye guys. Thank you.
Should we adjourn? Did you do the official?
I just want to say I'm very proud of our town board and how we behaved ourselves in that little challenging spot. So great job, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much. And sorry it was so last minute, Alex.
Yeah, I was.
People are very passionate about this, and so tempers I think were pretty high. And I'm proud of the way we behaved ourselves. And thank you.
Me too.
And thank you, David, for helping me with the wording. I appreciate that.
No problem. I know that was.
These are things we could. I was definitely willing to say, oh, let's push it off till whatever, a couple days. But I think you were also right, David, that we were close, and you offering some clutch wording was really nice.
It was my pleasure to help.
You got it. And a great attitude. So everyone.
Thanks. Yeah, really. Thanks, everyone. And Dan did a lot of pre-work working with KT on getting rid of some of the stuff that was just absolutely not going to work.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Good work.
Motion to adjourn at 9:52.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Aye. See you later, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah,
Now that I
9:50
can't see myself.
9:52.